It's beautiful. I mean, even down to, look at this, even down to the water, the way they've captured that texture though. All the kind of, the ground underneath and the sludge and whatever. No, if there's one thing I can't stand is trying to land on 20 FPS. I see people landing, you know, you see them streaming and they're coming in on the approach and they're like 18 FPS. And you think to yourself, why have you got your settings so high that you're trying to land on 18 FPS? It's not worth it. Just dial your settings back. Like, it's okay if it looks fantastic, but if it's frames are like drawn by Bob Ross, it just isn't worth playing, in my opinion. Right, let's go over there. Let's have a look at this. I think, is that the castle lot? I know the castle's on a hill. It's got to be that way somewhere. Saved. Ruined! Arthur's seat, exactly. Oh, EGPH is off to our right here. There it is. That's Edinburgh. You've been on top of it. Nice. Yes, it's true, Balkan. However, with flight sims, you very, very, very rarely get 60 FPS, because if you're getting 60 FPS, what you'll do is you'll add more scenery complexity to make it look better. Generally speaking, you want to be a minimum, for me, you want to be minimum 30. 40 seems to be like the magic feel. If you get 40 FPS, you get a good blend of detail and responsiveness, and it gives you a little bit of buffer. If you come into a busy airport, you can drop to 30 and still land. But yeah, you don't want 60 because, frankly, you've probably not maxed your settings out. Look at this. I have done such a job on this. Is a 1070 with a Core i5 good enough? A Core i5, it depends. Like, with flight sims, like, I'm running this on a 4790K i7, which is a 4-core CPU, but it's clocking at like 4.5 gigs or 4.7 gigs. It's running pretty fast, and that's the important thing, really. You want fast cores, is what you want. You don't want more cores, you want fast cores. A 1070 should be fine. That is absolutely stunning. Now in train sim, do you remember we've taken this train here? Comes around like that. It comes down into Edinburgh train station. That is so good. Oh my god. Like, you could fly over this and then fly over it in real life and know exactly where you were. It's amazing. Well, I think they're the road bridges. This is the train bridge, isn't it? Now, Edinburgh Castle. I mean, really, we shouldn't be here with that airfield there, but, you know, whatever. We'll ignore that and keep flying. There's no way you'd be able to fly this in real life. Wicked Mouse. It's a kind of a learning curve, bro. There's no kind of one place to go and learn. It's just like a series of learning. You kind of got to layer your knowledge as you go along. But just jump in the sim and enjoy it initially. Just jump in, push the throttle, pull back on the stick, take off, just have some fun with it. Robbo, thank you for 37 months. Where's the cat? Ah, there it is. There it is. Found it. Nice. Let's fly towards that. Exactly. You never, ever stop learning when you're flying. You never stop learning. Look at this course. Any golf guys here? That's big, that is. It's beautiful. I don't think St Andrews is though. I could be wrong. Actually, it might be. It might be St Andrews. Yeah, Dan J, that's just clickbait. Crim, welcome back. It's not St Andrews, that is in Fife. Gotcha. What course was that then? You think it's Murrayfield? Wow, there are actually 2 stadiums here and a train station. Coming up on the castle. Look at the road. That's worse than Skylines. Look at that. I love that bit more. I guess that's the limitations, right? Some harsh elevation changes. Whoa. Right, I think I can probably, let's have a look at our flight plan. We could probably, oops. I hate this thing, I always get it wrong. Outer one. Direct. FPS is very dependent on a lot of factors like aircraft, FS Lab. Yeah, absolutely. Some aircraft, like the systems on board, will steal a lot of CPU time. And you have to allow for that. But again, Dan J, that's where I find that add-on basically compensates for it. Photography by Mickey, hello sir. Well, that's stunning, that is. Planning your next cross-country, Captain Beanie. The cool thing about this is I can fly around and look at the scenery without ever going there and think to myself, I'd really like to fly there. So I can kind of like get a feel for somewhere before even go there. Or if I say to myself, oh, I want to fly down to Lyd, I can go and do it in the sim. And then do it in real life, and that's going to make life so much easier. actually. Let's have a look on them now. Ooh, what's this? It's a lighthouse? Cool. I mean, that's almost, it's not photographic quality, but it ain't that far off. You know? It's only when you zoom in you realise that's not a photograph. Hey, Yoshi. You have no idea how long it takes me to get my PC background software to use the least amount of CPU as possible just for P3D. Yeah, I've had that in P3D. I've had like 20 FPS. The plane I like flying the most on P3D is the Dash 8 Q400 because I can almost always get buttery smooth FPS and it's still a fantastic aircraft to fly. Chelmsford doesn't have one, Phoenix. You can fly low, rescue dog. Absolutely. A beard is good for thoughtful beard stroking. You're right. Stev Dog, welcome back. Is that Alcatraz? That's what that reminds me of. Right, we're heading up to Dundee, I believe. Which is 25 nautical away. See, it's quite flat on the east coast. Like, the west coast is super massively hilly. And the east coast is relatively flat. Does X-Plane have multiplayer or a multiplayer mod? So if you want to go multiplayer, then you need something like, you know, VATSIM or Pilot Edge or that kind of thing, which is like an online network, which will essentially inject other aircraft into your system from other players. That's what it's doing. So that's the kind of multiplayer aspect. You can fly around with the AI flying aircraft around, which gives you like a feel of multiplayer. Yeah, send that, Tred. It will be interesting to see if they can get theirs as good as the P3D one, because that's such a good aircraft. You know, I might go heading mode. Head over that way. John Fezzer, how you doing? Dundee cake is fantastic. I entered the Nuts House last month, learned about you via ETS2, which I started playing last month. Thank you, Rishki. Or Risky. Fife. Fife Airfield over here, apparently. So this must be Fife itself, then. Have you really been flying around True Earth all day? What, the north? Which bit? Look at that, 20 FPS. What's going on? There's something here is tanking the frames. Look at that. If you notice what it's done here, did you see all these objects? It like basically it set my LOD to about here while all that frame rate was collapsing, and now it's gone back up again. Like, it dynamically just retracts the object. It's so good. About to fly over your house. Should be over there somewhere. It's really hard to see. Flying sims close to flying a real plane? It's a good question. The simple answer is yes. The complicated answer is not quite. In terms of the control surface, like the way you control a plane in real life is different. I suppose it's like racing a car in a sim and then racing it in real life. It's like that. In a sim, you can get force feedback through your wheel, but then when you're in a race car, you're getting thrown around your seat. You can feel what the car's doing. Like that kind of aspect is not there on a sim. Same thing with flight sim. You can't, in the sim, you cannot feel the controls. Like as you push controls, you're literally like moving control surfaces, and the wind will try and push you back. So you get a feel for things that you just don't get in the sim. But all the principles are there. Like the principles in a sim carry over to the real world. Things like, you know, don't keep your airspeed going, you'll drop out the sky, that kind of thing. $16 nautical to Fife. So like less dense up here, isn't it? Like, the amount of land around compared to say Glasgow, where it's incredibly built up. It would be great if Laminar started supporting force feedback. It would be a wonderful thing, Chris. You know, to have like a throttle and stick that had force feedback, I'd happily pay for that. Spent many hours learning in this plane. What, IRL or in a sim? Chris Arb will be at Cosford, yeah. I'm at Flight Sim Expo and I'm planning to go to Flight SimCon. I'm using a Thrustmaster Warthog and rudder pedals. Get this now, just countryside? It's -2 where you are. What is it here? Oh, it's 1 Celsius. Blimey. It was -3 last night. It says 60% chance of snow in the next hour. It's at that perfect temperature for snow, like 1 Celsius. Have you ever on the Microsoft Sidewinder force feedback? I don't... I think I might have done, actually. I'm sure I did at some point. Your friend added a force feedback device to a flight sim yoke at uni on his final year project. It was fun playing that. Where did he get the data from, though, Evie? Like, which sim did he get the data from? He got it from X-Plane. So it is possible, then. That extreme weather that's going through the Midwest at the moment is just insane. I seem to remember, though, was it last winter or the one before that? That happened in, like, New York and Boston. It went down the East Coast. This time it's gone down the mid. Just tons of power lines here. Look at this. Colder than Antarctica. Antarctica's in summer, though. Antarctica's like 24-hour sun right now. To be honest, John, I don't blame them. Like, if there's one thing Scotland has, it's hills and wind. I can't blame them for using wind turbines. Trying to find something for you guys. Hang on. Where is it? There it is. Have a look at this link. Have a look at that link. It's quite funny. If you want to see how bad it is in the Midwest right now. How crazy is that? I mean, seriously. Like, that girl's hair is frozen in position like that. Just frozen. .9, we're coming up on this. I think we may need some more altitude here, actually. There it is. That would be a nice landing. Remind me when I fly up to Scotland to actually come to Fife, because that looks like a fantastic approach. I'm guessing you get like vectored in this way. Or even that way, but it wouldn't matter, it would look amazing. What's its cruising altitude, Orange to Peel? Mostly people tend to cruise them between, well, They don't get up above, I think its max ceiling is probably like 12 or 13, but frankly, most people don't fly at that. Unless you've got an oxygen mask with you, then you're not really wanting to do it, I don't think. Look at this. Yeah, I've got to fly here. I've got to fly here. That looks fantastic. It depends, Orange to Peak. Like, if you're flying in real life, you're often constrained by airspace. Yeah. So, you know, if you live anywhere near London like I do, the London, what they call the London TMA, which is the London Terminal Manoeuvring Area, spreads out from London because there are many airports, many international airports in London. You know, you've got your Gatwick on the south, your Heathrow on the west, you've got Luton, Stansted, Southend. Like, it's surrounded by airports, and all those planes are like coming in from around the world. And so what happens is, from like London going out, you end up with these shelves of airspace, and so you have to like fly under the shelves if you want to do VFR. So you're kind of restricted for your altitude that way. Once you get out of London, you can, you know, you can do different things, but again, you'll hit the same problem when you get to Birmingham. So what I'm trying to say is, unless you're flying IFR and you're actually in that airspace, then if you want to just VFR it, you need to be below those shelves, and that's what a lot of people do when they VFR. No, in this sim, there's no restrictions in the sim as to what you do unless you fly online, in which case, if you fly online, you're expected to follow the rules, right? Service ceiling is 14,000, so I wasn't far off. Yeah, there's no Bravo airspace in the UK. What do I mean by below the shelves? So, if some airspace, like if some airspace starts at like 7,000 and goes like 7,000 up, that's like a shelf for you, because if you fly under it, you're not in that airspace, so you don't need to talk to people and get clearance to go into that airspace. You can just fly under the shelf and you're fine. It's like a 3D puzzle almost, I guess. No, it's not ginger beer. It's what is that? Lemon something or other. It's like lemon barley type drink. Right then. Altitude looks fine for where we are. Fuel tanks are on like half left and right. T's and P's are good. Normally in real life, what you would do is like every sort of half an hour or so. Depends what plane you're flying, to be fair. Like this, on this plane you fly, like the fuel's in the left wing and the right wing, and it basically combines, so you only ever fly it on the mains like that. But on, say, like a Piper Alpha Warrior, you have fuel in the left wing and fuel in the right wing, and you'll have the switch down here, and you'll have to switch between one tank and the other, and you need to remember to do it because it drains from one tank only, so you'll be draining fuel from like one wing, which of course makes that wing lighter and the other one heavier. So every like an hour or half an hour or so you switch tanks, and that's like one of the things that you have to do in real life. But also one of the things you have to do in real life is you look at your magnetic compass when you're flying stable. You look at your magnetic compass and you check that yours is lined up with it. Yeah, because this thing does drift quite markedly, in fact. So you need to just double check. Generally, it's during the crucial phases of flight, like halfway on a leg or as you're approaching into land, that kind of thing. Before takeoff, you'll check this, take a reading from it, and that's on like what, 340 almost, something like that. And you come down here and you go, what's that on? That's like, that's fine. And you do that kind of thing. They're part of some of the checks that you do. That particular check is called a Frida check. Well, that's what I know it as, Frida. I'm sure there are different abbreviations, but it's F-R-E-D-A, Frida check, and it stands for fuel. So you set your fuel first. Radios, make sure your radios are still working. Double check the squelch. Engine, you check the T's and P's are in the green. Instruments are in the green stuff. DI, that's where you set your DI against the compass, and then altimeter, you make sure you're in the right pressure setting. And you'll do that like every half an hour, 20 minutes or so. Alright, Rishki. Very, very... Oh, it's a golf course here, look at that. I'm thinking we may be needing some more altitude. Now, I'm just winging it, but if I was doing this flight for real, I would already have plotted the route through here and checked what the altitude restrictions are, like the MSA as it's called, and realised that this, you know, I can't be flying at this altitude, it's too low. So I think we'll go up to like 4K or so. We'll climb at 500. We'll pump it up to 4K. Put the throttle in. Also, as we climb in this thing, you need to sort of lean the mixture out. So you need to keep your eye on that EGT though. Actually save quite a bit of fuel if you use it properly. In jets, Chris, so it depends on aircraft you're flying, but you can look at the, like on the Airbus and stuff, you can look at the fuel display, but what it will do is it will drain fuel from the center, and then it drains it from the wings last, and the reason for that is stability. Like, you have fuel in the wings because you've got basically weight there. It's going to keep that aircraft stable. If you were to drain all the fuel out the wings and leave it in just the center fuselage, you would end up with a very unstable aircraft. If you leave the fuel in the wings, it's much more stable. So they drain the fuselage tanks first, and then they start to drain the wings. Nikolai, thank you for 37 months. Happy flying, dude. Thank you. So imagine flying this sector at night. Yeah. This is the thing, is like, flying at night is great, except when you're in rural places like this, where now you've got, like, nothing to go off compared to daytime. No, I've not. Not in real life, that's what you mean, Benkley. No, that's something that's on my kind of bucket list at some point, is to get rated on variable pitch stuff. I have Zoltar, yeah. Yeah, I passed my night rated on Monday, funnily enough. I did some absolute greaser landings on Monday. In fact, my instructor said to me, I landed it so smoothly. He said to me, I really feel bad saying this. He said, because that landing, it was fantastic what you did. He said, and I really feel bad saying this. He said, but when you fly it at night, you want to be landing much firmer than you just did. I was like, what? And he went, yeah. He said, so what you did, if that was a daytime landing, what you just did was fantastic. Like, you floated it, like you touched it down beautifully. He said, but at night, you don't want to be doing that. You want to fly on the Pappy lights, and then you want to, he said, don't slam it into the runway. He said, but there's like a happy medium between what you just did and slamming it into the runway, and that's what you want at night. You want to bring it in, but bring it in firmly. He said, because the fact is, you don't really know. He said, obviously, if you're on a big runway, it doesn't matter. He said, but you don't really know how long some of these airfields can be. So you want to just get it down on the ground, slow it down. That's your night approach. It's different to a day approach. I was like, okay. He said, but I feel bad saying that because it was such a good landing. What additional ratings are available? Well, the instrument rating is the next one, really. So I'm probably going to go for that. The instrument rating next, and then I guess it's a case of see where it all goes. Night was hard at first, even with the runway lights, there's no reference. Yeah. When they turn the Pappies off and you've got to land, that's tricky. That's probably the trickiest one that you have to do, is land without Pappy lights. You know, landing without a landing light, fine. Landing without panel lights, like when you land without a landing light, that only affects the last 10 seconds of your landing, you know? Which, to be fair, isn't that much of a big deal anyway, because you should be looking down the runway at that point, not at the ground. Landing without panel lights, well, you should have an overhead light on anyway, so it's no biggie. But landing without Pappies, you have to rely entirely on the aspect of the runway as you're coming in, like the shape of it. And the danger there is that if you have to do that in real life, you know, you can hit something on the way in. Because the Pappy lights are there to keep you on a glide slope, and if you get the glide slope wrong, but without Pappies you don't know you're wrong, you could hit something. What are Pappy lights? Hang on, slow it down a bit. I'll show you them when we come. Well, you saw them on the last landing. The Pappy lights are the red and white dots, basically. Yachts 10 will be your retirement from streaming for your new careers. Violet, nah. Rusty Brazen, congrats on the night flying. Thank you, dude. WTF, is the prop invisible? No, you can actually see it. You can actually see it though, whizzing around. Look. See it? Oh, look at this. Look at this. This is nice. I mean, I know there's nothing here, but this texture is so good. Look at that. Yeah, you've got, like, normal Pappy lights are 4 lights. What they call abbreviated Pappy lights are only 2 lights. But the principle is the same. If they're white, it means... If they're all white, it means you're too high. If they're all red, it means you're too low. If half of them are white and half of them are red, you're exactly on glide slope. And the red one is the one that you fear the most. The red one is bad news. Like, if they're all reds, you are too low, but you don't know how low you are, and you might hit something on the ground. If they're all white, worst case scenario, you go around. I'm looking at that though, and I'm thinking, are we flying over those? This is amazing, look at this. Blimey. Oh yeah. I mean, I have motorcycled, not in this bit, I've motorcycled down the coast though. But I have motorcycled on the west coast there where the highlands are, I've motorcycled in valleys like this, but way steeper than this. And it is truly an inspiring thing. Just driving down roads like this, where there's like mountains on either side of you, and you feel that big. It's just incredible. Interestingly, I'm not seeing many cars on these roads. I don't know if that's intentional or not. Baker, welcome back. I stuck around the coast, Mad Mick. I can't honestly remember if I went down through the Glencoe. I have got a picture somewhere of a GPS track of me going all the way around. But I've not seen it for years, I don't know where it is. I'm going up. I'm not staying here. This is... See, the thing is, right, if you fly the big jets and stuff in the Sims, you never see this kind of terrain. Because you're up there, like 10,000 plus feet, and you just don't see this properly. You get down here and it's like, whoa. Gamer, Vash House, thank you for 31 months. How far can you get off the tank of fuel? I think the Cessna, a 172, I think, has about a 5.5 hour range on it. I think. It's something like that. Which means you could probably do like 500 to 600 nautical miles, I'd guess. Oh yeah, John Fezzer, it's so worth doing, man. Well, yes and no, Yorak. Like, Orbex have compressed their stuff quite well. The whole of the Orbex GB will take about 350 to 400 gig. But that's the whole of Great Britain in that kind of level of detail. And that's a lot of stuff to fly over. Recently you did a flight on FSX to Tapa, Estonia, 3:30 PM pitch black, no puppy on runway and landed 1 mile short. Blimey. You believe right now you're flying over Evermore on an approach to the southwest, you should fly over Loch Ness. On an approach from the southwest, you should fly over Loch Ness. Let's see where we are. Wait, is this Loch Ness here? I could alter the course and go over to this and follow the lock up that way. Let's do that then. So what's that? That's going to be 270, 2829, maybe like 29 or something. Stick it on heading mode. Take a little detour. There might be a surprise in the water, you never know. That looks so good. Aviemore is right in front of you and Loch Ness is about 10 o'clock. Well, that's where we're going. 100-meter flyover, dude. Lol. That's beautiful. Notice a distinct lack of trees here. It's just so brutally windy that the trees just can't get traction in many, many places. I don't think there are seasons in Orbex now. If you change the weather, the time of year, then I don't know what Explain will do in terms of adding a bit of snow up here. True Earth is summer only, there you go.